Herdmans were absolutely the worst kids in the history of the world. They lied and stole, talked dirty and hit little kids, cussed their teachers, and set fire to Fred Shoemaker's old broken down tool shed. I guess it was an accident. I don't suppose they woke up that morning and said to one another, "Let's go burn down Fred Shoemaker's tool shed." But maybe they did. After all, it was a Saturday and not much was going on. Things would have been different if they'd burned down, say, the Second Presbyterian Church instead of the tool shed, but the tool shed was about to fall down anyway. Everyone said it was a blessing in disguise. Susie's father, Mr. Smith, said it was the only good thing the Herdmans ever did. And if they'd known it was a good thing, they wouldn't have done it. They would have set fire to something else or somebody. They were just so all around awful you could hardly believe they were real. Ralph, Imogene, Leroy, Claudia, Ollie, and Georgie. They were 6 stringy-haired kids all alike except for being different sizes and having different black and blue places where they conked each other. They seemed headed straight for the bad end, and it was widely predicted for their future until they came across the church and Mrs. Smith, Susie's mother. Mrs. Smith didn't expect to have anything to do with the Christmas pageant except to make her children be in it.
We didn't want to. We didn't want to.
And to make Mr. Smith go and see it.
He didn't want to.
She just happened to get stuck with the pageant when Mrs. Armstrong fell and broke her leg. There was never anything new or outstanding about our Christmas pageant, and Mrs. Smith hadn't planned anything new either. There were angels, shepherds, wise men, and of course the minister's son as Joseph, and Alice Wendlekin as Mary, because she was so smart, so neat, and clean, and above all, so holy. All the rest were in the angel choir. Each year Reverend Hopkins invited the Herdmans to Sunday school, but they never came until Charlene told Leroy that we got snacks and pop at church. They didn't sing hymns or prayers, but they did make a little money because I saw Georgie swipe a handful of coins from the collection basket. The announcement for the pageant was made and we all knew what parts we were going to play, but Alice must have been worried because she looked at Susie with a sickly smile on her face and said,
"I hope you're going to be in the angel choir again. You're so good in the angel choir."
What? I don't know.
What's the play about?
Wait, no.
What's a pageant?
It's a play.
What's the play about?
It's about Jesus.
Everything here is.
Mrs. Smith felt that it was important to give all the children an opportunity to volunteer for the major roles, and so she went in front of the Sunday school with paper and pencil, quite unprepared for what was about to happen. I overheard Imogene telling Alice what would happen to her if she dared to volunteer.
I don't care. I don't care what you do. I'm always marrying the pageant.
And next spring, when the cattails come out, I'll stick a cattail so far down your ear that nobody can reach it. And it'll sprout there, and it'll grow and grow. And for the rest of your life, you'll have a cattail growing out of your ear.
Mrs. Smith left half an hour later in a state of shock at the prospect of a Christmas pageant in which the Holy Family and the wise men would be portrayed by the Herdmans. And the last Herdman, Georgie, and quite possibly the meanest, would portray the angel of the Lord who brings the good news to the shepherds.
Alice, why in the world did you audition to be married?
I don't know.
What went wrong? How is this all going to happen? How did this all happen? How is this Christmas project ever going to work?
She was just trying to scare you. She was just trying to scare you so you wouldn't volunteer to be married. You know Imogene wouldn't do all those awful things she said.
Yes, she would. Hermits would do anything. But your mother should have told her no. So much put her out of the play. So much put all of them out of the play.
Alice was not alone in this opinion. Her mother, for instance, made a speech about it at her circle meeting and said it was little short of sacrilegious to let Imogene Herdman portray Mary. Others agreed, but based their objection on the more practical grounds that the church could not afford whatever damage the Herdmans might do. Reverend Hopkins took the only stand he could in his position and reminded all the outraged ladies.
It's that one.
Yes. When the lights go black, that's when you need to start making your way forward.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Gail. That's really helpful. Welcome. When Jesus said, "Suffer the little children to come unto me," he meant all the little children, including the Herdmans.
The first pageant rehearsal was usually about as much fun as lunch duty and just as noisy and crowded. This rehearsal was different, though. Everybody shut up and settled down right away for fear of missing something awful the Herdmans might do. The Herdmans got there 10 minutes late, busting into the room like a bunch of outlaws about to shoot up a saloon.
I'm going to ignore everything except blood, and since Alice isn't bleeding and neither is Leor, nothing is going to happen. We're glad to see you all here.
That was probably one of the biggest lies ever said right out loud in church. Imogene smiled the Herdman smile. We called it sly and sneaky. There they sat, the closest thing to criminals that we knew about, and they were going to represent the best and most beautiful people ever. No wonder people were worked up. Mrs. Smith started to separate everyone into angels, shepherds, and guests at the inn, but right away she ran into trouble. The Herdmans didn't know what shepherds were or what an inn was. They knew that Christmas was Jesus' birth, but all other details were news to them.
What happened first? Start at the beginning. Dad, I'm supposed to.
Let's read the Christmas story together.
There we go. Maybe say that as you're walking up to the chair and just move a little closer.
There, in the days of Herod, the king, Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child.
Pregnant.
Jingle whisper.
I don't think it's very nice to say that Mary was pregnant.
Susie was pretty sure Alice would tell her mother. Mrs. Wendelkin didn't even...
I don't think it's very nice to say that Mary was pregnant.
But she was, though I do agree that great with child sounds better for Mary.
I'm not even supposed to know what pregnant means. I better tell my mother that your mother's talking about such things at church. My mother might not want me to be here right now.
Susie was pretty sure Alice would tell her mother. Mrs. Wendelkin didn't even want cats to have kittens or birds to lay eggs. And she wouldn't let Alice play with anybody who had 2 rabbits.
Shut up! I want to hear her.
I couldn't believe it. The Herdmans never sat still or listened to anyone. But here they were, eyes glued on Mrs. Smith and taking in every word.
What's that?
And there was no room in the inn.
For heaven's sakes! Not even for Jesus?
What was that they laid the baby in? A manger? Is that like a bed? Why would they have a bed in a barn?
They didn't have a bed in the barn. Mary and Joseph had to use whatever there was.
What about clothes?
The what?
You read about it. She wrapped her in water clothes.
Swaddling clothes. Swaddling clothes. Long ago, people used to wrap their babies tightly up in cloth so they were cozy and comfortable.
You mean they tied him up and put him in a feed box?
Well, it was something like that. And lo, the angel of the Lord appeared to the shepherds who came upon them. The glory of the Lord shone round them, and...
Sit down!
What?
Out of the black night with horrible vengeance, the mighty Superman.
What are you talking about, Georgie? This is the angel of the Lord who comes upon the shepherds in the fields, and...
Out of the nowhere, right? In the black night, right?
anybody like Alice, who had hoped the Herdmans would get bored with the whole thing and walk out, was doomed to disappointment. They showed up at every rehearsal on time and behaved, for them at least, with remarkable self-control. Of course, 3 or 4 new boxes of crayons disappeared from the cupboards, and they still didn't know how things were supposed to be. Imogene, for instance, didn't know that Mary was supposed to be acted out in a certain way, sort of quiet and dreamy, out of this world. Imogene's Mary was loud and bossy. She would yell at Ralph, who was Joseph, and she made the wise men keep their distance.
What the? Yeah, that'll be fun.
The wise men want to honor the Christ child. They don't want to harm him.
Be sure to tell your mother that I can step right in and be married if I have to. And if I'm married, we can use the Perkins baby for Jesus.
We just won't worry about a baby doll. We'll use. Wait,